Hi guys, so hope you're all doing well. I wanted to talk this week or touch on the cultural differences between where I'm from in Arizona and here in New Orleans. So, of course, there's going to be such rich culture and history here because of this city. New Orleans just celebrated their 300th year of being a city. Their tricentennial was last year in 2018. So, of course, there's going to be a mass amount of just culture and diversity here in this one place. Now, right off the bat, of course, you can't have or be in a place that was founded at the start of a whole country without there being a little bit of like dark history or just stuff that is like a little more sad. But around the city there are small reminders of kind of like the slave trade and like things like that went on, as well as like the foundings of some of the older places. Like there's the Ursuline convent, and that was part of the New Orleans Archdiocese and the Catholic Church at the building. It was for schooling and for helping the poor, and it was founded at the very beginning in 1727 or something like that, shortly after New Orleans was founded. So that's really cool. Just like there's things like that of just like the education of people and the education of women and the church and how big of an impact the church played on New Orleans, as well as sort of the harder stuff to talk about, like the slavery that went on here and the sort of like trading and just difficult history in the area. And a large part of the culture, as well as the history and just like the tourist appeal, is the sort of draw to like witches and vampires and voodoo. And although voodoo is a religion and it is in no way evil, it is like often depicted in like and tied to witches and vampires and those kind of mystical creatures. So there are a few voodoo shops around the quarter, and you usually can't record in those or take pictures, but there are plenty of them on every street. Super cool, super authentic, as well as there is one of the only vampire shops in either the country or the world. I don't remember what the girls said working there, but that was super cool, very authentic. Everything in there is made locally or in shop, and it's crazy to know that like I took a history tour or a haunted tour of the French Quarter, and there are people in New Orleans that think they are vampires, and that is so wild to me. But they're out there, so watch your back. So along with like kind of the mystic history, there is a lot of religious history. There's obviously St. Louis Cathedral that is found in Jackson Square. It is the oldest cathedral in the United States. It's beautiful. I've been inside of it before. I didn't get to go inside of it yesterday or when I took video because it was so busy in the French Quarter. March is the busiest month for visitors, and that takes me into the sort of hospitality culture that you find in New Orleans. Everyone here is so nice, especially the customer service people, the bus drivers. I do ride the bus, and the bus drivers are always so friendly. Even the people on the bus are friendly, and the workers in the restaurants, the servers, the baristas, the tour guides, the people that ride around on bikes, like with carriages in the back. They're all super kind and they're super sweet, and they are a big reason why it's such a good tourist place because everyone is so welcoming to the area, really. And the hospitality culture is something that I have been talking about in my tourism class here at school, and we did talk about how that plays a big role in kind of what draws people in. Like obviously the rich history and the non-stop kind of party atmosphere brings people into New Orleans, but there's wonderful museums, there's like all of this history, all of this culture to like kind of be learned and to be understood, and that's a big draw for people, including me. That was a big reason why I wanted to come here, because not only is it such a hub for like hospitality and for tourism, but it's just so culturally and historically inclined that it's like something you can't miss. And just like being in history class and reading the books and understanding how things have changed and the things that haven't changed or what has been modified culturally and with the times, I don't know, it's really, really cool. So this week's video, I really did enjoy the videos I took because I tried to represent the culture as best as possible. Of course, you can't like capture all of the culture here just in videos because there's so much from the Mississippi River and the history that holds to just the entire French Quarter and beyond, like the oldest trail, the French market where people still traded, the indigenous people traded in that same area because it was close to the river. And there's just all of these aspects that make New Orleans so rich with history. And so in ways that it differs, back in Flagstaff is a very small city, and it is in the northern part of the state, so that does connect it to like reservations and like ancient or like old ruins of other civilizations that were in the northern part of Arizona before it was like a city and stuff, because Arizona was a territory. And but just that here there's so many checkpoints, there's so much that goes back so far, and I'm taking a history class right now, and we look at all of these different maps and the different footprints of the city over time and how a lot of things have stayed the same or were utilized as the same. There's historic buildings everywhere that can't be altered or anything because they're historic and they're landmarks. And you don't find like a lot of stuff like that in Arizona because it is a relatively new state, and especially Flagstaff, a new city in comparison to New Orleans that is 300 years old. The sort of history and founding and like the role that Flagstaff does play as far as like the railroad it's connected to and stuff like that does play a large part in history for the Southwest in general, and it is really cool obviously to know those things. And there are small things in Flagstaff that are like, oh, like that's very historical, that's very full of culture. Same with like the nearby city of Sedona, it's also in northern Arizona. But from all the places I've seen and like noticed, like nothing compares to a place like New Orleans just because of how much it's gone through over time, and so that's just, yeah, it's just unmatched basically to me in my eyes. But then you can't wander the streets of New Orleans without just hearing music and seeing the street performers, whether it's just one person playing a light guitar near the riverfront, which I captured, or just a full out setup like jazz band with horns and tubas and just a whole setup that just set up like on Royal Street, like the one that I captured as well. And they all sound amazing. They're all perfectly placed throughout the city. You can hardly walk around the big streets or the main streets of New Orleans and the French Quarter without hearing some of that music and that culture that's really been rooted into the city. So I'm starting to ramble, but that is it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that it encourages you to at least visit New Orleans someday. It's definitely should be on your list of places to visit. It's attainable, it's in the United States, and it's wonderful. There's so much to see. There's more than just the French Quarter. There's all these different districts with all these different stories, and the people are so friendly. You do have to watch your back, just like any city. With the city that's this old, it has a big city mentality, even though it's a small city. So there are things to be wary of, but it is a beautiful place. So much culture, so much to see, and just not enough time, and there's so much knowledge to be learned. But thanks for watching, have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!